Tim Minchin is Judas. Currently on a UK arena tour, the Tim Rice-Andrew Lloyd Webber show is on in Birmingham tonight, where it's being filmed by Universal Pictures for broadcast in cinemas all over the world, after which it will be released on DVD and Blu-ray in the coming months. Tim, how did this happen?
At the end of last year, I had lunch with Lloyd Webber because he was interested in me because of Matilda, the musical that I wrote the songs for. That he owns the theatre that Matilda's running in. And during that lunch, I told him that I've always wanted to play Judas, which I have, and I've been saying it to anyone who'll listen. And he, like most people, just laughed, thinking I was sort of joking, but I sort of wasn't. But I let that lie, and then I went and saw the opening of a version in New York, and Andrew was sitting behind me. And because I've loved this show for so long, I'm hypercritical, not, you know, in that ungenerous way you are when you think you have opinions on stuff. So I was sort of sitting there going, oh, no, it was great, but I went away from that thinking, no, I could do it, I could. I insisted on auditioning because I didn't really know whether I could do it, but I auditioned and they thought I could, so I did, and now I am.
Why have you always wanted to play this role?
I don't know, I suppose I had the 1970 album on vinyl, and my parents had it, and we used to listen to it all the time, and my brother and I used to play through it. And I guess those things that affect you at certain points in your life that you can never really ever be objective about again. So I don't know, I just always loved it. But also I'm not really a sort of an expert on the canon of musical theatre. I don't really know about musical theatre in a broad sense, but I have very strong feelings about it as a form. And I've always thought this musical is such a sort of eccentric, you know, only Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice at that period in history could have done it. It's sort of subversive and naughty and funny and dramatic and stuff. But I also like it because in this version, Judas is the protagonist and Jesus is slightly annoying. And Judas gets to open the show with this amazing rock song expressing his frustration at Jesus' getting swept up in this messianic fervour and losing sight of the mission that he and Judas have always been on to help the poor and spread the word. And from there he just goes downhill and eventually betrays him, thinking that's the only way to stop this descent into religious madness, and then feels so guilty when they beat up his mate that he kills himself. In the most harrowing, dramatic piece of musical theatre I think that exists in the rock idiom anyway, this massive screaming, crying, dying, and then he gets to come back and rock out with some sort of satire with a whole lot of girls in wings and small pants. So it's just, dramatically, it's as fun as anything, as Hamlet, you know. It's so much fun, and you get to sing right at the top of your range and have dreadlocks.
Aren't there large swathes of this show, though, where you have to do without irony?
Yeah, but that's interesting about it as well, because all art forms, but especially theatre, I think, because people are there and present and it's unfolding in front of them, you can do that. People are that manipulable to turn corners like that, to have a fool in one scene and a multiple murder of children in the next, you know. And I think I just mixed up a couple of Shakespeare's, but that turning is something you can do, and I think JC works at its best when you let the ironic bits be really ironic, let the campness be camp, let the rock out be rock, and let the human drama be taken utterly seriously. And if you can't handle that as an audience member, you won't like this show. You know, you just won't, and that's fine. People will. It doesn't matter how good the production is. A great swathe of people will never like this show because of that. I, as a fan of the show, don't like most productions because that balance is so delicate. I reckon this one gets it right because Ben and I just take our jobs entirely seriously and let the nonsense rotate around us, you know.
Your own show that you do in arenas like this one you're going to be performing in shortly is you know, one of the things you do in your act is you take a militant comics atheistic stance. So how does it feel to be in a show which perhaps doesn't chime in with your own worldview?
Well, I think there's two answers to. I disagree. I think it works perfectly with my worldview. One, because this is a secular telling of the Passion of the Christ. It puts two very ironically incredibly human people. Jesus is very human. He's weak and he's bitchy and he has tantrums and then he doubts himself and then he sacrifices himself. I mean, he's complex, as he is in the Bible. He sometimes has a bit of a tanty and wants a foot massage instead of, you know. And Judas is very human as well. It shines a spotlight on the fact that Judas, you know, and the whole musical asks the question and does not answer the question of whether there's a God and whether Jesus was the son of this God. And either way, Judas was ripped off, because if he's just a pawn in the plan of a master deity, then he was used. And if the deity doesn't exist, then he was right, and Jesus was going nuts. And so either way, he was right. The other thing is that the whole point about being an atheist, or whatever I am, a materialist, that I believe in observation as the best way to move forward in the world, is that I have a very I have no problem distinguishing between life and stories. I rant against psychics in my show, but Matilda, which I co-wrote, involves a little girl who has psychic powers. I'm more passionate about theatre and stories than I am about whether other people can't distinguish between fictional tales and explanations of the origins of the universe.
Talking of Matilda, you are an acclaimed composer and lyricist in your own right. What are the challenges of singing other people's songs?
I think I'm probably more critical, I don't know. All actors and people doing musicals have opinions on the work they have to produce, and find some things easy to express and other things hard because they don't gel with particular lyrics or melodic choices. I think the musical director was probably a bit worried about me to start with, because they'd go, well, actually, it goes like this, and I'd say, yeah, but I'm going to sing it like this. And if Andrew has a problem, he can call me, you know. Like, but I wasn't. Actually, I'm a huge fan of the original work, so actually I sing very much. I'm not interested in the 40 years that have gone in this piece where people have got more and more. I'm not interested in musical theatre as a show-off of vocal ability. It's completely irrelevant to me. It's the melody has an emotional content that helps you tell a narrative story, and you have to find the truth in that. I don't care about that stuff. I love the music and lyrics in this. I can't believe they were 20 and 25 when they wrote it. I find it almost flawless within the context of what it is, you know. So I adore it.
Do you ever get the urge to ad-lib or add your own comedic touch to the show?
To this?
To the part?
To Judas? No, not at all. Because part of the challenge for me of doing this is showing people, because I was an actor and a singer, I guess, and a muso and stuff long before I was a comedian. And just like with Matilda, sorry to keep referring to my own work, but you know, I think people assume that if you get up on stage and swear and criticise religious bigotry or whatever, that this is a Tourette's-like compulsion that you can't control, when it's not. It's just a choice of stuff to talk about. In Matilda, people are like, oh, how are you going to write it without swearing? And I'm like, do you think I can't help it? I mean, it's not appropriate to swear in a family musical. And it's the same in this. I want to serve this story as it's written. I want to serve my fellow actors. I want to serve the audience. I want to serve my character. And that's my job as an actor. And I'm pretty dedicated to showing people, especially all the people who went, oh, celebrity casting, he's a comedian, why are they casting him? I'm completely dedicated to doing a good job as an actor. Me, Tim Minchin the comic, has no place at all on this stage and doesn't ever come into play except a bit in Superstar, because Judas has died by then, and it is a bit more like, well, here we are now and here are my questions.
Tim Minchin, thank you very much.
Pleasure.